Have you ever had a passion project and found that when you explained it to others, they didn't know what it was? That's what happened to me when I tried to join a choral speaking group here in Oakville, and no one knew what choral speaking was. This podcast is the story of how I tried to put together my own choral speaking group. I'm Kathy Bullock, and you're listening to In Search of Choral Speaking in Oakville. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of In Search of Choral Speaking in Oakville. And I am delighted to bring back a guest who we've had on the show before. I enjoyed so much talking to my old voice coach, Zoe Heath, the performing arts director at the school called the Acting Centre in Guelph.
Thanks,
and
Kathy.
we just barely even, hi Zoe, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be back.
We had barely even just scratched the surface, and I had 2 or 3 more questions that I wanted to ask you, and you graciously agreed to come back.
We love choral speaking. We love choral speaking so much. We were talking about it.
One of the things that you in our last conversation, we talked a little bit about why you were teaching it, and you talked about the power that can come from that experience of being a voice amongst voices for the person in the performance, but also for the people listening. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was how do you teach it? I discovered in my experience with the women who graciously trusted me, they'd never heard of choral speaking, they decided to come to a session, and I discovered that I had knowledge of things that I didn't really know that I had. For example, how to hold my breath, how to breathe the diaphragm, all the warm-ups that I'd learned from you, and then how to pause when you're reading the line of poetry. Like, sometimes you have to take a pause to make the moment dramatic or meaningful, or to give the audience a chance to hear the emotion behind. And I found it that I didn't know how to teach that. So how do you do it when you're working with kids or with adults? How do you actually teach it?
Well, you start by reading the piece that you're doing and doing it together. And like a dance, you as if you're doing it, Kathy, if you're directing it, you're going to explain that you'll be going back and doing those pauses and those beats, and you mark those very specifically. Like, you're going to say this part, let's try this. So it's the technical side of it, right? Getting there. And then, okay, everyone, come together. You're bringing that together, you're doing that rhythm, and you might even start with like a physical thing, with the breathing, with the small movements, with the arms, with the head. You could incorporate that in the warm up, so you have that rhythm together, and you get that cadence. And it might not be perfect. We might have some moments where people rush through, and you can talk about that as an ensemble, and then go back to the beginning. We can try pitching it up and bringing it down, and doing that as a group. Right, we're doing all that stuff together and saying, you know what, this part right in here, it really is screaming for us to kind of do that, bring it up, hold it like we're holding the words in the air and coming down. And if we just keep communicating that with the group and everyone's being a part of that, it does start to come together. And that really is a rehearsal process, whether it be in music, dance, and acting. It's the same thing that we apply to choral speaking, right?
And you mentioned that not everyone in the classes that you teach are going to become actors, they're just enjoying themselves. But do you find that some people have maybe a sense of rhythm and some people don't?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you kind of work through that?
Well, sometimes you just, the nice thing is it's choral. So someone can kind of sneak in there and just hold the beats with the group. So it's really lovely that maybe on their own they won't have that rhythm, but in the group we support that sound. We support that. If it's something that's a community coming together, then really the honest answer is they're welcome, and it might not be the same kind of spectacular energy or rhythm or from someone else, but that's okay. They belong there. And how do we incorporate that into the group? You know?
I can't imagine. So if you're working with people who aren't necessarily planning to be performers, that kind of rehearsal that you've described, let's go back, let's do this again, let's aim for this, let's do that again. Do you get resistance, like rolling of the eyes, like, oh, like, do we really need to do this? Like, who cares? Or how do you deal with, I can imagine the angsty teenagers, it might be a bit.
Yeah, well, I think people do that. I don't know, more so the eye rolling and thing that goes back to the first episode that we did together of uh, what kind of patience do people have? Do they have the commitment to get through a rehearsal process? You know, it's like anything. If you're going to go do a workout, are you going to quit halfway through? Well, it's the same with choral speaking. Then maybe it's not for that person. Maybe what you hope happens is at the end of it, they go, oh my gosh, I feel fantastic. You know, that was really hard in the beginning, but I'm getting this wonderful feeling in my chest and in my core when I were blending our voices. Or was anybody else moved when we hit that note in that when we were saying that one line? Because I was feeling this. And that's what we hope, and it might not come right away. There might be eye rolling. I hope not, but what can we do? Right. So we're looking for the connection. And if people are
And
there, then they're obviously interested because I don't think just I don't think anyone gets up and goes, yeah, I'm going to go do choral speaking.
I don't even, yeah, that's true. So have you seen do you have do you have a memory of some sort of amazing flourishing that you saw in one of your participants?
And one of the participants,
Yeah, like, do you have some amazing transformation story that you remember?
always, there's lots of transformation stories. I have seen so many wonderful people resist or think they aren't good enough or don't belong or don't have a voice or can't do something or have anxiety or maybe they have a certain something in their life to trying to overcome, um, and um, and through choral speaking they have just grown so much and start seeking it out, and they're getting more confident, their postures changing, their voices are resilient, um and I think, wow, are you even the same person? This is amazing. Of course they are, because we all have that ability to be many things, many things. So yeah, I have seen lots of actual uh, exercises with choral speaking and performances that I've worked with, um, groups of people, and that is the greatest reward. And um, all I ever hope is that people continue to take it into their everyday lives, or maybe say, you know what, I am going to start a group of women doing choral speaking.
Like me.
Right, that's it. So yes, it is, I have seen it, and it is fantastic. um you know.
One of the things you mentioned in the first episode that we didn't get time to come back to, we only have a couple of minutes left, but
Sure.
you mentioned about the impact on the audience. Do you want to just sort of talk about that for a minute?
Yes, imagine, of course, if you will, you're sitting in an audience, a group comes out and starts doing choral speaking. Maybe you didn't know that was going to happen. All of a sudden, the room is filled with multiple voices. It's hitting you like a wave. It's going out past the edge of the stage into the room. It's going all around you. You're hearing all these beautiful voices, and you're making out notes from even when they're speaking together. You can hear the different notes of different people. You know, someone might have a high pitched voice, low, more nasally. This, and it's all there. And depending on what they're reading or what they're performing, it it can just take you, you know. I think that in a way, this is what we have found over time, in Greek performances, when we go to churches, when we have group um, prayer, or we sing in a choir, or we have choral speaking. The coming together of voices is really about the coming together of bodies, of humans, and then expressing that. And the cool thing, Kathy, is it could mean something different to every single performer if they're doing choral speaking. And if you're open to it as an audience member, it is so wild and amazing. Like, it's really, for me, I think if you're open to it, maybe there's an audience member that's sitting there saying, I don't, what's happening? But I guarantee you they might think about it later in the quiet of in their own little quiet moment. They might think, well, that was kind of, yeah, interesting. I might think about it. That was really neat.
What a great way to end.
Yeah.
Out of time, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
that was such a beautiful description of how it might affect someone in the audience. Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for your
Kathy.
time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to my podcast, In Search of Choral Speaking in Oakville. Today, Zoe Heath, who is a performer and artistic director of the Acting Centre in Guelph, graciously agreed to come back for a second interview to talk about some things we didn't have time for in a previous episode. Don't you love the way she describes the process and the impact of choral speaking on an audience? Let me know in the comments if you've had any experiences with choral speaking. Next week is the last episode of this choral speaking podcast. It'll be our first performance. Until then, stay safe, stay well. I'm Kathy Bullock, and I've been your host for this podcast.